and welcome to this palm reading video lesson. Today we are going to talk about finger placement, which is basically the natural space between the fingers. And now I'm going to show you a few examples of what I mean. The finger placement can be seen just by raising your hand up, or by placing the hand on a table, or just on a regular print, which is what I always recommend. Now, it is always good to combine what you see on the finger placement with other findings on the hand. For instance, the mounts or the lines or anything else. However, finger placement can give you a lot of information all by itself. It shows a general attitude, so it can be changed easily, meaning that once you are aware of what a finger placement means, you can change it. Now, when two fingers are really close together, such as on the example I am showing you now, it is very important to determine which finger is leaning. Like, is it, in this case, is it the Saturn finger, the middle finger, or is it the ring finger, the sun finger? Actually, in this case, it's mostly the sun finger. I will be using this illustration to study each finger separately. And now let's start with the thumb. Now, the thumb is how you relate with your environment. It is your sense of security. It is how safe you feel and how comfortable you are with yourself. So, to me, the best thumb to have is the Fonz. Yeah! When you think of somebody like the Fonz, if you're not familiar, it is from a series called Happy Days. Fonzarelli is always cool, always happy, wherever he is. So a good thumb is actually behaving like a good Fonz. The finger spacing, the best is 45 degrees. So it means that it's not too close, which would be less degrees, or not too open, which would be more degrees. So 45 degrees is the best. So it shows a flexible attitude. The person is sincere, assertive, steady, and gracious. Now, if the angle is more than 45 degrees, as you can see on the illustration, the focus is on the senses, on comfort and security. So there is a lot of intense needs and passion. And it can be overwhelming to others, because the person wants to control his or her environment. There can be also a little bit of lack of direction and lack of purpose too. And the person is looking more for survival. Now, if the angle is less than 45 degrees, as you can see on the illustration, the person tends to be overwhelmed by his or her surroundings, or is controlled by his or her environment. There are lots of fears and anxiety, and the person can be emotional and dependent on others for security. Now we are going to look at the other fingers, now that we're finished with the thumb. So as you can see on the illustration, each finger has its own area, and the space between the four fingers should be equal. Now we're going to start with the Jupiter finger. Now, Jupiter stands for our place in society, our personal identity, our sense of purpose, our ambition, and it generally shows the direction. That's why I'm showing the finger that shows the direction. When Jupiter is centered, meaning when it is in its own space, there is a strong sense of personal identity. The person is polite and generous. The person also acts well in society. There is a sense of purpose. The personal ambitions respect the good of all beings. not only just the person. So when Jupiter is leaning towards the thumb, then a person is more ego-driven, and the ambition is focused on security and comfort, which are more what the thumb is all about. So the person tends to go after their own goals, and unfortunately they are blind to consequences. Now we're going to look at when Jupiter is leaning towards Saturn. In this case, it is more difficult to find a sense of purpose. The person is feeling guilty and afraid of trusting others. But in this case, the person is more willing to listen to advice because the Jupiter is leaning towards Saturn, and Saturn is a serious guy. So at least Jupiter is listening to Saturn. So it is better if Jupiter is leaning towards Saturn than if it is leaning towards the thumb. Now let's look at the Saturn finger. Now Saturn stands for seriousness, discernment, discipline, objectivity, and strategy. And this is why I put the picture of a chess game. Usually a chess player has these attributes. When Saturn is centered, then there is a lot of structure, balance, endurance in the person, and he or she is able to see the truth. When Saturn is leaning towards Jupiter, the person is out of balance, and the strategy is used for personal gain because Saturn is leaning toward Jupiter, and Jupiter is the finger of ambition. So in this case, the motto is the end justifies the means. So the person can be manipulative, calculating, and sometimes cold-blooded. When Saturn is leaning towards the Sun, then Saturn is looking for the strength of the Sun. So it is looking for other people's strength. And there is a lack of spontaneity. Now let's look at the Sun. So the Sun is our ability to shine, to share, and to believe in ourselves. So when it is centered, the person is passionate, sincere, and has strong convictions, and also has the ability for unconditional love. When the Sun is leaning towards Saturn, which is very common, it is asking for Saturn's approval. And again, Saturn is very serious and the Sun is supposed to enjoy itself, but it's asking Saturn, is it okay if I enjoy myself? It lacks courage. It doesn't believe it in itself as much as it should. He can take things personally, sometimes a little bit needy or dependent or disappointed or hurt, but it's a great opportunity to learn humility. When the Sun is leaning towards Mercury, there is a lack of structure and discipline, which are the qualities of Saturn. So we're too far away from Saturn. So the Sun is actually looking for excitement, and it has its own personal agenda. So it can be overbearing, vain, attention-seeking, and it will be also easily disappointed because it's looking for fame, it's looking for recognition, and if it doesn't get it, it's going to be upset. Now, last but not least, we have Mercury, our little baby finger. Now, Mercury stands for detachment from things such as name, fame, money, other people's opinions, this type of thing. Mercury is supposed to be Buddha-like. You know, it's not supposed to be shaken by everything. It's supposed to just accept life the way it is. Because of that, it's also the finger for our sense of humor and communication. So when Mercury is centered, we are spontaneous, witty, humorous, intuitive, and the sentence to remember for Mercury is he can hear and speak the truth. So it is detached from all the non-permanent aspects of life, such as money, fame, dependent relationships, people's opinions, this kind of thing. Now, if Mercury is leaning towards the Sun, then the person is shy and reserved and tends to avoid interactions with others. When the finger of Mercury is really far away from the rest, which happens a lot, it is too far away from the honesty and the integrity of the Sun. So sometimes the person is not as honest, or sometimes they can pry into other people's business. There is a certain lack of objectivity. The person is not centered, so they don't listen as much as they should. Like, Mercury, hear and speak the truth. If you're on your own little agenda, then you're not going to listen to the truth. Because it's still the finger of Mercury, it's still communication and a very quick mind. But this quick mind can be sometimes used for deceit. Now, this concludes my study of the finger placement. Now, remember that this shows our attitude. So it gives us a lot of information, but it is information that we can decide to change. We can decide to act differently, to extend our fingers differently, and it is going to have an effect on our attitude towards life. Thank you for your attention, and I will see you for our next video lesson.